Straighten up.
Straighten up, fly right. That's what my dad used to say.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the 18th episode of the Insiders on Real Estate and Marketing. I'm your host, Sandy Hibbert, and this is my co-host, Mr. Marc Miller.
Hi, Sandy.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing
Super good. I'm excited about our show. Glad to have Kerry back, our guest, Kerry Prisock.
Prisock. We're going to get this.
Prisock. Kerry Prisock. And Kerry is the General Counsel for Secured Title of Texas, who is our sponsor. Thank you very much,
You're
Secured
welcome.
Title.
Yeah.
If you've missed any of our episodes, you can catch them all on our website at theinsidersonrealestateandmarketing.com.
We also have that posted on our website.
Also on Secured Title of Texas.
DX.com.
All right.
Yep.
We've got it on YouTube. We've got it on Insiders Podcast, on Instagram. So I don't think you're going to have any problem. In fact, just Google Insiders on Real Estate and see what comes up. I bet we will. So we're super happy to be here. Thanks for coming in and watching our show. Today we're going to talk about some really fun stuff, and that is the nitty-gritty of real estate transactions. And we've got two of the best in the business here that's going to talk about it, a day in the week or a day in the month of a real estate transaction. So we're going to get down and dirty on that. And then I'm going to talk to you about a real quick and impromptu survey I took of all my clients. Where'd you get your last 3 deals? So we're going to talk about digging down and finding out where are the leads coming from. Whether you're a business owner, a restaurant owner, real estate professional, these tips on where to find the leads are going to work for all of you. So let's jump right in.
Okay.
Mr. Transaction Guy.
Well, you know.
What's going on in this market? I mean,
life moves quickly the older you get, but it certainly is, seems to just be moving at light speed this year, and we're already halfway through the year.
Yeah.
I mean, we've closed out 6 months. Thankfully, we had a record month for June, and probably the best the company's done in 8 years that it's been licensed here in Texas.
wow.
So when people say inventory's down and things of that nature, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing for us is transactions are up and good, and then what's happened by the natural rise in the transactional price of the property, our average income per order has risen. Mm-hmm. And normally that's a target more toward marketing side, but this is just
It's just happening.
what's just happening in the marketplace.
It's
so
crazy.
It's just absolutely insane, and there's just with that velocity, I think comes a lot of a different level of stress associated to the real estate transaction.
Mm-hmm. Well, I noticed your eyes seem like
I'm glazed over.
Really bloodshot. I was wondering if you've been drinking or
no,
you're just tired.
no, I've been working out and sleeping.
I'm kidding.
But I know you are. But
so super busy and stressful?
super busy, and it's not. You know, it's. I always say every transaction has its own fingerprint. Yeah. And it's really true. And we just never know what to anticipate once we get the contract in. Obviously, a lot of things start to happen, and once that title commitment's issued, then we see our first look at whatever might have been a seller's outcome for the period of time they own that property. Right. Whether that's a federal tax lien or an AJ, or they're going through a divorce or those type of things. So Kerry and I kind of joke, we can kind of tell on Mondays that you know, this is going to be dead people week. You know, it's we're dealing with probates and issues to the wills and things of that nature. It might be divorce week, it may be survey week. So we kind of, and it just seems to come in grows, doesn't it, Kerry?
It does.
It just seems to hit that. So
like death, it comes in threes.
Yeah. So, and some of it is, you know, discoverable prior to a transaction, and some of it just happens by the course of the transaction to that side. So I thought we'd just visit a little bit about the different things that we're seeing that maybe could be of benefit to people out there when you run into these kind of circumstances. Be aware and be more diligent. And I've always said, particularly in the listing side of the equation, that I think people have to be more forensic than they probably historically have, because it's not just about marketing of the house. Once it's listed, it's about what is there anything else that they need to know that's happened to the people that are in the home, because that could be impactful to the ability to meet the timelines of the contract.
Well, in light of all of that, I have a curious question that I think your answer will address all this stuff. But with the market as crazy as it is right now, and crazy meaning that there's multiple offers on a home, people are paying cash, people are paying way above the listing price, and all this crazy stuff that we're not used to. Does that affect the title? Are you noticing it being sloppier? Are there sloppier deals coming through? Because no?
No, it's quite the opposite. We don't like to handle the sloppy deals.
Yeah.
So, you know, and the average, I think the average in the Metroplex is probably 350,000.
Yeah.
So, and then you think that they're going another 30 to 40% above that list price. So the dollar value doesn't really impact us anything from a transactional side. I think it's more impactful to the lender side of having to deal, because now they're getting a contract in with appraisal addendums, and they're having, you know, they know it's not going to appraise for what the contract is, which used to be the history of this business. It's always about, did the appraisal meet the contract sales price? That was the first level of anxiety that you went through. And
that's why this seems so weird.
It is weird, yeah. But I think, you know, everything always normalizes in this business to some level, and people that haven't been in this business for longer than 5 years probably think this is the way it is, and it's really not. And it was interesting, Marc Wolf sent me a kind of a projection of price appreciation over the next 5 years, and this came out of the national side, but I mean, it goes from 8.66 in 2021 down to 5.12, 3.7, 3.5, 3.3.
Okay.
This 2025 number to that 2024 is more normalized appreciation that we've experienced in our marketplace.
So is there hope then for someone who says right now, let's say a young family, I can't afford to buy a house in this market, but they're afraid that they might not be able to afford it in 5 years. This says maybe they can?
This says they can.
Oh, that's great news.
I think that's going to be the case. It just, not that demand's going to go away, but I just think we're going to get more to that normalized side.
Okay.
And, you know, the average over the last 12 months, the average homeowner has gained almost $34,000 in equity over the last 12 months.
Whoa.
Just sitting in their house.
That's enough to pay for college, maybe.
So anyhow, it's really interesting to watch this, and I think we're still in a strong market. I think 2021 is going to end up being a really, really good year for the industry, and then 2022, nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
But I don't know what would turn that sale one way or the other. I think interest rates are going to be manageable. Demand here in the Metroplex is certainly going to stay strong to that side. So
you're going to have the second wave of buyers, the ones that couldn't buy now, and the time wasn't right. Their time's opening up.
And somewhere out there, we don't.
And more inventory.
Yeah, and exactly. And we don't know when that inventory boost is going to come, but part of that boost will be eventually the forbearance agreements subside, and people are going to have to manage where they are with debt they haven't paid, and that's going to put a portion of inventory back out into the marketplace.
We haven't even seen that yet, have we?
No, the closest we'll see is in the end of this month is the moratorium on the rental side. For rent abatement, and then I think it's August 31st on the forbearance.
Still seeing us. I measure that in Dallas and Collin County. There's still a handful of postings. Collin County, on the average, would have 50 to 60 foreclosure postings. For August, they've got 8.
So
there's definitely been the skids put
breaks
on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to press on the servicers to try to work out modification agreements to do everything but foreclose. But there's just going to be circumstances where people, and they say one of the alternatives is sell your house. And if I was sitting in that situation where I needed money and I didn't have a job and I had to,
now's the time.
I would be selling my house right now. But you know, then you got to go live somewhere else. But there's plenty of multifamily available markets. So.
Well, it's like there's this crossroad, and the buyer slash seller's going, which way do I go? Which way do I go? You know, if I buy, there are these results. If I sell, there are these results. You know, which direction do I take my family on that? And then there's legislation that President Biden's got, you know, going that can maybe help on down payments in the next few years.
And you got a lot of people that at one point in time were looking at a short sale and losing everything that may actually get to make a little money when their house is sold now.
And to your point, I think that's great.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, people who get in trouble, get upside down, in those days where the mortgage company came knocking on your door, slapping that yellow sticker and taking your keys,
that's
not going to happen right now.
No, not anytime in the near future to that side. My curiosity is when you I see a posting on Facebook with somebody and they'll say that they've had that house on the market for an hour or whatever it is, and they got 30 offers. And then someone will say, mine was accepted. And I'm thinking, wonder what strategically they did that the 29 others did not.
I was thinking about that just the other day.
Yeah,
how do you know?
So to me, it almost felt like to some degree, although we always talk about marketing, I think it's relevant, I think the other side of that is strategy in terms of negotiation.
Yeah.
How do you position your
That's a
client
very good point.
for the offer on that property that gives you the best opportunity? Because you got 30 people standing in line trying to get the same asset.
I would love to hear from some of you realtors that are listening about this. That would be great to hear and know. What are you doing, and how does your offer have the best chance to get received, reviewed, and accepted?
Because I imagine everybody's exhausted the 30 letters of why I want the property.
Yeah. and then you have some schools of thought that say, don't do that. I've had realtors say, no, we don't do letters, we're not going to do that.
Right.
And then I've had some that are going, got to slip the letter in there. So you have these 30 heart-wrenching stories.
Yeah, and then it's probably, I've always believed that there's a relationship side in the real estate industry. So I think a listing agent knows when presented with offers, she also, or he, assesses
Good point.
the buyer agent that's presenting that, because they know them from a transactional history, and they know whether they're good producers, they know the kind of clientele they represent, and they know whether they like to work with them or not.
Yeah.
Because just because you get it under contract is one thing, all kinds of other things come to play, and where you're going to have two realtors collaborating together to get the transaction closed.
So relationships important in that.
Exactly. So anyhow, all that being said, I just wanted Kerry to hit some highlights of sort of what we're seeing, at least the first half of the year, consistently, that might be a few points to make and a few things to advise our listeners on how to not necessarily avoid the trap, but how to manage potential issues that delay a closing.
And that's the main problem. Your seller, when you got a contract, they need to be able to perform. The last thing you want today is to have it where it's delayed, it gets a closing time, and you can't get it closed, and people are just going on to another offer. And there are really three things that keep running up that I see over and over again. And the first one is with a divorce. In particular, if the divorce decree deals with the distribution of property, it has to have the legal description in it before it can be. You either got to have a deed from the spouse or a legal description in the divorce decree. You still see some people that use the do-it-yourself forms that the Supreme Court has provided, and so many times they'll put an address in there and that's it, or they pull the description off of CAD, which is limited. And so you got to make sure, so there's a divorce in there, let's get a copy of that decree as soon as we can. And what does it say? Does it give the property to one of the people there? Does it have a legal description? Does it require for a deed? If it does, did they do it? Because it's like, lots of times there's a sample deed just attached as an exhibit to the divorce decree, and they think, oh, we did that, it's an exhibit. But it's just an unsigned blank document. It doesn't do anybody any good.
Right.
So somebody needs to look at the divorce decree right off the bat. Another thing that comes into play there is if you've got a dead person in title. Because once again, that's the same type of thing that there are some issues. Lots of times they go, well, it was probated. Well, sometimes the probate has not been finalized. There's not what we call a muniment of title, which establishes who has title in there, or the executor has not done a deed into the heir. And at that point in time, what happens is lots of times it gets stale. So the court does what's called a drop order. And that basically means you've done your inventory, you've done your appraisal, the executor's done all the heavy lifting, so the court doesn't need to worry about this anymore. Well, if a drop order is over 2 years old, then that probate, if he haven't deeded out, that probate hasn't done any good with the title of the property.
So it's just been sitting there.
Right. So you basically have to treat it like there was never a probate.
Oh, boy.
You either got to go and reopen the probate
That's
again,
messy stuff.
advertise everybody, all that, or treat it like I don't have a deal, but just doing an affidavit of heirship. And when you get sticky with the affidavit of heirship, title insurance underwriter wants people that aren't a beneficiary that's known the deceased for at least 10 years. So tracking these people down, it particularly gets problematic. You want to know, has this deceased person been married before and had kids by a prior marriage? Because if there's kids by a prior marriage, it completely changes the intestate laws under the state of Texas. Everybody thinks, oh, well, your spouse automatically gets the property.
Right.
But there's kids from a prior marriage, that's not the case. The spouse has got a life estate. You've got to deal with those prior kids. This is not something you want to find out the week of closing. And the other thing I'm seeing a lot of is
forensic.
where we've got title holders that are foreign nationals living here. And lots of times you have people where they're a married couple and the spouse didn't come over here. And so one spouse owns a piece of property in Texas, but it's no problem. My spouse is in XYZ country, they'll sign. Well, with COVID, that's becoming a really difficult thing because getting into an embassy in some of these countries, the embassies are closed.
Right.
They're on a 30-day wait to get an appointment with the consulate.
Yeah, it's a lot harder than here in the U.S.
Absolutely. And so people go, well, what about Iran or Iran? Well, Iran, it's a remote online notary. To do that, you have to have a permanent, constant, uninterrupted audio and video recording of the execution of all of the documents. And once again, you don't have a wet signature. Without a wet signature, your lender's probably not going to take it. And good luck recording that. You're not going to be able to record in most instances without a wet signature. So that's where the REN comes in, a remote ink notarization. But that's a brand new cutting technology. Texas is really only recognized and under emergency orders by the governor now. And good luck, once again, is a lender going to accept it. So these are issues that you need to know if you've got you see a name that might indicate that you've got a family member that's not a U.S. citizen. Don't worry about all the other tax circumstances. You need to ascertain where are they residing, how are we going to get signatures, how are we going to manage this. And once again, it's not something that you wind up with facing at the end when you're trying to get it closed.
Wow.
And that's the three things I keep seeing over and over again.
So you guys actually have to deal with this stuff?
Oh, yeah.
This
Yeah,
really
I mean,
happens?
we work all the way through the process, and then you also then have to orchestrate how we're going to close the transaction as well.
Wow.
Where the party's going to be, and what happens is that we just rarely get this information in advance.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I almost feel like we're in triage all the time on a file because we're managing the newest information that we've received from parties, and now we're having to mitigate against what we've learned to try to keep that transaction process going, if you will.
Whose job is it to coach a realtor on all this stuff? I mean, how can you?
The only coaching I would offer to anybody that's in this space is just you've got to ask questions of your clients and not be afraid to ask questions. They don't necessarily have to be tough questions, but it could be very surface level about, is there anything that's had any impact in your family environment over the last 12 months? Anything that kind of just flushes out. Assuming we get to closing in the next 30 days, do both of you intend to be in the market when we close the transaction?
Do you have a checklist or something that you could?
You know what? It's probably a good idea to create one. I'll do that. I'll create a checklist.
That has these three things,
It's a great
especially
thought.
because there are so many realtors in the market that are new. They don't have a clue about this
they
stuff.
don't know.
It doesn't mean they're not a good real estate person, but title is a whole thing all by itself.
Well, you get tunneled. You get tunneled to getting that contract written and the offer made, and you hit acceptance zone, and you're like, celebrate, and you should.
Right.
But there's so many other things that come along the way
all the legal stuff
from that contract side. So
what a deal!
Yeah,
that stuff is messy.
It is messy, but I think what I like about what we're doing is that and I like the fact, and I really talk about this, and when we're developing new relationships, is we're a boutique firm.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be the biggest in the marketplace.
Right.
We're boutique. We're hands-on.
And they can talk to you.
They can
and
talk
Kerry.
to us. Our leadership team has that kind of experience. We don't look at a challenge as something we're frustrated with. We look at it as an opportunity. And what I'm finding is we're getting deals that other title companies are not willing to close and insure because they're not willing to get down deep into the forensic side and find the solution.
Do the work.
At hand and do the work. And Kerry is phenomenal as a transactional attorney. It's such a lift to our organization. And so I've got my escrow officer there keyed in with Kerry. Kerry's in contact with our underwriters we represented. We have to deal with a title-related risk. And then everybody's, our plant's flowing well. Everything is just really going well. And that's why we had a record month in June. We're getting more business in because of the way we're handling business. And that's what I want to have. I want to have that kind of reputation in the marketplace. And everybody else can go claim number one in the market. They can have it. I don't care about that.
But you guys are making a mark, and I love that.
So
we're just title of Texas.
There you go. We want you to feel secure when you come to us.
I love that. That's good stuff. But without marketing,
absolutely,
without the lead, we don't have any closing. So let's talk for a second as we close out about the various marketing. And it was fun because I reached out to all of my clients this week, and I said, just quickly tell me, where'd your last 3 deals come from?
Right.
And here's some of the answers. I have a church in Oklahoma City. They do missions in Africa. They're all over the place, and they do lots of things. Word of mouth, that works for a church. Website, Facebook event that they put together that just absolutely made the event and their missions program explode because they had done a couples thing, had done the event, and Google search. Google search has come up a lot, by the way. Baby Quip Furniture Rental, a client of mine, Google search. So imagine that if you're traveling to North Carolina for vacation, you don't want to drag the playpen, you don't want to drag, but you want to drag your kid, but you don't want to drag all the accoutrement. So they go in and they will Google search for baby furniture rental. So that's working for them. Good music, referral, Instagram, and website. Now, I know this guy, Josh Good, he's my son-in-law, and I love to tout how he handles Instagram. He goes on Instagram and he finds the people that he wants to work with. So he's a producer, so he'll look through Instagram, he'll see different songs that are being posted by an artist, and he'll just hit them up. He'll say, "Hi, I'm Josh Good." He'll make the introduction, almost like an online networking opportunity, but he's just going for it. So I thought this is a great idea for business owners another way to utilize Instagram, and that's just by engaging people on the network that you want to work with. So I thought that was cool. One of my great clients, Indigo Sky Group, they're over at Compass, referrals, past clients. Now, those girls are tip-top professional. You know them, you've worked with them.
Right.
So their referrals and their past clients keep rolling in. But Janelle told me we stay in front of our clients. We stay in front of them. And this is another thing I saw with all of the people that I talked to, staying in front of their past clients. So your past client can forget about you. If you don't reach out to them, if they're not seeing you on social media, if they're not hearing from you on email, if you're never calling, if you're never texting them, if you're never sending them anything in the mail, they can forget about you.
You still need to have a drip campaign.
You need a drip campaign.
The old style drip campaign was dropping the postcards.
Yeah.
In the mailbox, but the point of it was that something each month was being in front of that
stay in
client
front of them.
or prospect or whatever it is, because out of sight, out of mind applies in our business as well.
It does. Across the board, any kind of business.
Right.
I have clients who always ask me, I want to do your Insta branding program, but I think posting daily is too much. And I'm like, oh, no. In fact, you might want to post multiple times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening. So staying in front, being in that feed as people go online throughout all times of the day, you want to be able to be in that feed. And that was another thing that Janelle at Indigo Sky Group said, stay in front of your clients. Troy Olson, my past co-host here, he said staying in front of my clients creates loyalty with them because he does a great job. So Troy, aside from his beautiful looks, he loves to create that loyalty by doing a super job and touting that super job with his clients, and that creates a relationship. He keeps that going. Diane Kay, lead follow-up, and she said that she went back and checked the last 5 years of her transactions, and that she surprisingly found out that the last few deals that she's gotten came from an open house that she did, leads that she got from an open house where she put them on a drip campaign and kept them on the marketing program the last 5 years, and that's where she's gotten leads. Scott Kennedy, another colleague of mine, he said that he went on a listing presentation last night from a house that he sold 13 years ago, but he stayed in front of his client. So staying in front, however you choose to do that, there's a lot of ways you can do it, like I said. Basic stuff, guys. It's not rocket science. Referrals from satisfied clients and customers. A friend of mine, Linnell Laborde, she's out in South Lake area, relationships that generated business. So she does networking. She's built relationships that just turned into business without actually trying to make them a lead.
Right.
They just turn into a lead because you're building relationships. Lease leads actually work. Networking, sphere of influence, networking groups. So I think that, overall, what I looked at from my little impromptu poll that I did, the answer was staying in front of your clients.
Yeah, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those had to do something with relationships.
Yep.
So they
Yep.
had established relationships, they had a transactional history with them,
Yep.
and they stayed in front of them.
Yep. Did a good job.
Yeah, they did a good job.
I mean, you want to stay away from a realtor
Right.
who's done you a bad
Right.
job, or any kind of business owner that's done you a
Right.
bad job. So that's primary number one, is you've got to do a great job. You've got to know your business. You've got to be in the game, like we've been talking about here. But yeah, staying in front, and starting with social media. I think that's the no-duh thing that you've got to do. It's there. It's affordable. Everyone is going to cross social media channels at some point. So it's definitely a place where you need to be. But staying in front of your clients, having good professionals to work with, real estate, the whole title side, and needing to have that coach, needing to have that professional. I think that this is what Secured Title offers, is that because you're a boutique firm, you have the ability to turn on a dime for a client,
Right.
rather than hanging up the phone and saying, "I'm sorry, I can't help you on
Right.
that."
Right.
And that's
Or I
the
can't get
beautiful
back
thing.
to you till the end of the day.
Yeah, and working with me as far as marketing, that's the beauty of being a small business, is that I can turn on a dime with you too, as well. We can be responsive to the market. We can be responsive to whatever your marketing needs are to make it happen for you.
I think some of the, I always think back to the meetings we did when you released your book.
Yeah.
And I think we lined up 25 producers, and we had one-on-one discussions with them. And every one of them had some place where they had initiated a strategy, but then didn't follow through on the strategy side of the equation. But if you remember, we found consistency on every one of those people.
Yeah.
And they all had some level of frustration associated with marketing. Most of the time, it was they got into the transaction trail and they dropped their marketing strategy.
I mean, I think that
And
happens with all of us in any business
you
that
have to
you
balance
have.
the two.
You get busy with your own business, and your marketing lays to the side, and that's why you have to have professionals.
And the worst time to wake
help.
up is when you realize you don't have any business, and now you got to go pick up your marketing again. You're in trouble.
The pipeline is
the
empty.
pipeline is always important.
Well, guys, it's a wrap, and I just want to thank you so much for joining us. Our 3 takeaways. Can we do it real fast?
Sure.
Okay, go.
Mine would be, as I keep emphasizing, be forensic. Ask the right questions. That'll prompt your next steps. Consult with the title companies once you are forensic and you figure out you've got an issue. That's the time to call and talk to the title companies and get to us and let us advise you on how to advise your client. And then I would be putting a pretty strong focus, as you always look about what are you developing, your designations, things of that nature. But I would be looking at developing my negotiating skills as much as I would be to homing my marketing strategy, because I think negotiation obviously is at a all-time high of trying to get these contracts through. And it's the listing agent's the receiver. They're just catching them.
Right.
It's the one out there presenting that needs to understand more about how to negotiate in the transaction.
Yeah.
And what are those options, where there's soft and hard spots to go to. So those are my three.
Excellent. Kerry?
Mine echoes in. It's the forensic side. Talk to your clients and try to identify potential problem issues at the early point, so you don't wind up getting in a time crunch when it comes closing time and you can't perform because of something that you didn't even discover till the last minute,
Right.
or you slept on.
Yeah, good. For me, stay in front of your clients, number one. Number two, stay consistent in whatever marketing effort you pick up. You can sell ice cream to, what is it?
Eskimos.
An Eskimo, if you market it consistently. So consistency, and do a fabulous job so people love what you do. And that is a wrap. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Bye-bye.